My boyfriend Jake and I have been together for 9 months, living together for 6 of them. We've known each other for a year and a half. As I write this, he's been at work for 50 hours and counting. He was supposed to come home for an hour last night to refresh, but didn't show. I don't know if this difference in values is something that can be overcome. I've always known that Jake has ambition and drive. It attracted me to him. I respect that he is a hard worker and will do what needs to be done to get where he wants to go. The problem is, when we got together, he was working a job where he didn't see a future. Shortly after we moved in, he got a new job where he anticipates growth. Everything changed. His job uses him. He works shift work, and he's constantly put into situations where he's set up to fail. They have an event coming up which has resulted in him working something like 25 days in a row voluntarily, including this current 50-hour stretch. If you have to work no overtime, pay for over 50 hours straight to be successful. You shouldn't be in that job. That's my very strong opinion. When we started dating, our bed life was great. Then it crashed and burned to nothing. When I've expressed this, he's accused me of thinking intimacy is everything, or thinking that everything is always going to be perfect. We've had intimacy once or twice in the last 3 months. He tells me it's because I don't initiate, which I'm working on. But how do you initiate when your partner is always exhausted or at work or feeling sick because he's at work so much that all he eats is crap? We don't sleep in the same bed. He sleeps on the couch every single night because he wakes up early and goes to bed late. If he's at home, I've asked him to share a bed with me. That's happened once in the last 2 months. Anytime I bring anything up, he gets so defensive. So defensive. I don't know how to get around that. I get made to feel guilty for not supporting him. And you know what? No, I don't support him anymore. I think he's making terrible decisions for himself and for us. I tried to support him for a long time and wound up giving all of myself and feeling unvalued and unwanted. While I was supporting him when I brought up my concerns in a nice way, honestly, it all got turned around on me. When he wasn't a workaholic, we were fantastic. We still have our moments. I thought he was the one. Everything was different with him. He warned me that when he started his new job, he would work a lot of hours, but I didn't anticipate this. I feel like my own boyfriend doesn't want me. Intimacy is huge to me. I've been in a sexless relationship before, and I don't want that. I feel like he devalues it so that he doesn't have to try or feel guilty. My biggest concern is that every time he finishes one mountain at work, something else is thrown at him. Will this ever change? Even when he gets promoted, I'm sure it'll happen. His work will be similar. I love him. I love him as a person. I hate the decisions he's making and the lifestyle he's choosing for himself and for us. I get working hard, I do. I don't know if I can handle this. Has anyone been in a situation like this before? Do you have any suggestions on how to handle this? My coping right now is basically to not give a crap about what he's doing or what he's up to. But then I start crying that that's what my relationship has become. I think it's ridiculous that he's been at work for over 2 days, but at the same time, I don't care. Has anyone been through anything like this before? Relevant comments. Somebody said you've been dating this guy for 9 months. 3 of them before you lived together were great. The rest of the time, 2/3 of the time you've been dating and all of the time you've lived together, you've been unhappy and unsatisfied. And based on your description, he is uninterested, unwilling, or outright hostile about your attempts to communicate with him about your dissatisfaction. The purpose of dating is to find out if you're right for each other. You've spent more time with him unhappy than happy. And the longer you stay together, the unhappier you become. News flash, you have found out he's not the right guy for you. Don't bother with counseling. He's showing you every day how he is. Don't try to change him. Just end it and find someone you are actually compatible with. This relationship has taught you that you're not compatible with a workaholic. This is great. Now you know that about yourself. Carry on. Original poster replied. Good way of describing it. That's what I'm concerned about. I guess I'm just having a tough time internally separating the version of him when he's well-rested and spends time with friends, and the version of him who's overworked and exhausted and saying that who he really is the overworked and exhausted guy. It's like when he's satisfied in his life outside of work, he's unsatisfied at work, and vice versa. And maybe I'm seeing where his priorities lie. A commenter. Maybe you'd be better off as friends. Then you could enjoy his company when he's well-rested and unstressed like his other friends do. If you'd been together 10 years and this behavior was new in the last 6 months with a new job, I could see investing time in counseling, etc. But this is a new relationship and he's acted this way. Most of your relationship, I don't see the benefit in investing work here. Dating is like taking a relationship for a test drive. If this were a car you were test driving, would you buy it? You liked it in the parking lot, but it turns out you don't like the way it handles on the road. Do you look under the hood and tinker with the engine? No, you thank the dealership for the opportunity to try it out. Give back the keys and walk away. No hard feelings. You tried it out and you're just not right for each other. Walk away, another commenter. You guys do not seem like you're sensually or emotionally compatible anymore. Have you tried to communicate all you've told us to him? I would consider getting couples counseling together. Edit. Also, 50 hours no sleep. When he does sleep, it's on the couch. Lack of intimacy, I had to plant the seed. But are you positive he is working? Original poster replied. I've communicated on several occasions. He strongly dislikes these talks. And it usually winds up being turned back on me, for example. Intimacy isn't everything, or the one person who's supposed to support me doesn't. I even got the, you think intimacy is more important than the relationship. I've tried approaching nicely, and I've had my moments where it just hit me at once and I burst. I understand that he's tired all the time, and having a nagging girlfriend doesn't help once he blew up at me, because I asked him to rinse some dishes. But that means there is never an appropriate time to him to have these conversations. He did initiate intimacy on Valentine's Day, though, and then used that later as a reason why I can't say I'm unsatisfied with our intimacy. Life. Edited. Yes, I'm positive. I get Snapchats and pictures from work sometimes during these stretches. I honestly don't know how he's alive right now. Someone said, yikes, girl. You know how people say relationships rely on communication? That's actually true. Otherwise, you have a problem, and it's just your problem. If he won't listen or care about your feelings, then you have to live with things just the way they are. Because there's no other recourse. Original poster replied. There have been times where he's shown he listens. He just doesn't in the moment when I'm trying to talk. Some actions afterwards will show he's heard and is trying, like washing some dishes or complimenting me a bit more and honking my boobs, huh? I appreciate the effort to show he notices me. But this is also the only relationship I've been in where we'll have an argument. He'll leave the room in the middle, and he went 3 days without attempting any communication. I sent a few texts and left some notes but didn't go overboard because he's been upset before. If we have a fight. And I send a text like everything's good, but he doesn't like fighting over text either. And we went 3 days without seeing each other because of his work. Ugh. When I write it out, it seems like such a mess. He's a good guy. He really is. But this is very unhealthy, isn't it? When asked if the boyfriend is a shift worker, working overtime, he is salaried. He's not being made to work those hours. He is because he wants to ensure everything is done and done properly. He does run a risk of disciplinary action. If his area of responsibility isn't up to standard update. 5 days later, we broke up one night at 7. 0, he woke up after another incredibly long shift, and I was crying. I said that I thought we may be incompatible with our lifestyles and priorities, that I wanted to make it work if we could find a way. But we seemed so different. After going out for a smoke, he came back and started looking up rental apartments on his computer. Right in front of me, without saying a word, I called him out on it. Asked him what kind of person did that without even saying a word to their girlfriend. He told me I'd already made the decision that we didn't work, that our lifestyles were too different. I told him that, no. I said I wanted to make it work. I asked if he had any solutions. He said nothing. I asked if I was going to always be the only person to come up with solutions because that puts a lot of pressure on me. He said, no, I get it. You feel like I don't exist. You're making me feel like shit, I get it. I kept emphasizing that I wanted to find a way to make it work. He asked me what I would do if things got worse. He asked, what would you do? cry every day, and yell at me. That's when I told him I was done. I was done being the bad guy for having feelings. I was done being the only person trying. I was done being blamed for everything from lack of intimacy. My fault for being so terrible with how I initiated to me beating him home on my birthday. Apparently, I left work early, so he couldn't have my present ready, even though I didn't, and I wasn't remotely upset about it. And we're done. He's moved out. I'm devastated, but also relieved. I'm not always wondering when my boyfriend is going to be home and how I can make our time count. I'm not always wondering if we're going to work out because I know we won't. Despite crying a lot at work today, I feel lighter. I feel more optimistic. I desperately miss how we were when he wasn't working all the time. But that was so long ago, it feels like that relationship already died. I want to thank everyone for their advice. We just weren't compatible. And you were right. It wasn't just the work life that was doing it. It was the inability to communicate. I deserve better than being accused of making him feel like hell. Anytime I express an emotion other than joy about being with him, I'm proud of myself.
Please buckle in, because this is all so weird. I'm a 35-year-old man, and for some backstory, my dad died when I was 19, leaving my mom with me and my 2 siblings. I'm the oldest. It took some time, but eventually my mom started dating again. We don't live together per se, but our houses back onto each other and have a gate, so it's pretty common for her to offer to do my laundry, or me just go over for dinner or go look after our dog, that kind of stuff. Plus, me and my siblings go over there for dinner every other Friday night or so. A bit after she started, the men she's been dating have been getting younger and younger, and I've never had a problem with them. She's been very open to me and my siblings that she wants to get married again, and we've always been supportive. At least after the initial shocks, lol. The latest guy is by far the most serious, and they've been dating since around last June. He proposed at the start of autumn, and they want to get married next summer. Again, me and my siblings are fine with this, because it's her life and we trust him. He's a nice guy, and they clearly love each other. But anyway, so long and short is, this weekend, her fiancé, let's call him Danny, calls me and asks me if I could come over. I say, yeah, sure, I'll be over after work, and I assumed he just needed help with some DIY stuff they're doing. When I get over there, he calls me sport and says we need to talk. I should mention this is something he does to me and my little brother, calling us things like kid, sport, scout, little buddy, or my personal favorite, calling us red and blue, seemingly out of nowhere. My brother is 30, by the way. He tried it with my little sister, 28, too once, and called her princess once, but he stopped when she just stared at him. The thing with Danny is that he reminds me a lot of Charlie Day's character in Horrible Bosses, in that his sole ambition has always been to meet a girl, get married, and have a family. When he told me and my brother this, my brother made some joke about how maybe our mom's going to come short on the last part, and he got very upset, but they made up after. Anyway, so I go round and I ask if my mom's around, and he says no, it's just him, and that we really need to talk man to man. I say sure, and he starts talking about how he's always wanted to be a father, etc., and raise a son to call his own. And then he drops this bombshell by saying, now I know I can never replace your father, the man who made you, but it would mean the world to me if you could call me dad. I'll admit it, I sniggered a little. And then I knew he was serious, because he looked like he was about to cry. And he didn't drop it either. I asked if he really meant it, and he got really emotional and started talking about what it means to be a man, and how his purpose is to have and provide for a family, and he wants me and my siblings to be part of that family. Like he reiterated, he'll never replace my father, and this did rub me the wrong way a bit, but he's ready to step up and be my dad and provide for and protect me and my siblings. And I'm just sitting there thinking, dude, I'm a decade older than you and live in a separate house. I don't need providing for, and even if I did, I don't think a guy a third of my age who works part-time at the hardware store and is into collecting manga is the man to do it. No offense if you're into that, lol. Just, I don't know. I was a bit taken aback. I was in shock, so just said okay, and he gets emotional again, but in a happy way, talking about how he wants to go camping or go to a baseball game. I don't even like baseball, lol mayo, and how he joined the Lions this year, and how he wants to bring me into it too, as his boy, which just feels so surreal. Even more so as I'm a Shriner, so all this talk of service and charity isn't the brag he thinks it is. Because again, I'm 10 years older than this guy. Well, I ended it by just saying, this has gotten a bit too weird, and I was going home. He got very upset, and I left. Called my brother, and he agreed it sounds weird as holy crap. Later, my mom called me, and she wasn't disappointed, but admitted it's made him very upset and depressed. I told her that if he's embarrassed, he doesn't need to be. I get. He's excited about the marriage, and we can just laugh this off as a funny story. She then said that wasn't what he was upset about. He, and she too a bit, is upset about the fact he poured his heart out and I rejected him. She said, yeah, it is a bit kooky, but this is how he proves to himself he's a man. And I guess I was a bit angry and said something like, first off, it's not my job to certify what's between his legs. And second, this doesn't prove he's a man. It just proves he's a nut job. I apologized immediately, but she said she didn't want to hear it and hung up. She called back 10 minutes later and we apologized, and she begged me to just go along with it until he has some kids to call his own. I won't go too much into the details here, but she sort of let slip they plan to try IVF treatment because she's not ready to give up on being a mom just yet. And while I have my own thoughts about whether or not that's a good idea, I'm not here to litigate on that. We finished up fine, and I reiterated I'd support her, and she agreed that it was definitely a stressful situation for me, but begged me to at least think about it. Which leads me here. I did think it over, and obviously I'm going to say no. I had a dad, and he died. Rest in peace, Dad, and that's the only dad I've ever needed, I've ever wanted, and I'll ever bestow that title on. I'm not asking if someone's unreasonable or what I should do, more so what I should say. This clearly means a lot to him for some reason, and I deeply love my mom, so I want to try and minimize the damage, especially as we're still so involved in each other's lives, and they live behind me. How can I make it clear to them, as painlessly as possible, that I think this is weird and borderline offensive? I really don't want to rip the Band-Aid off because I fear what it might do to the family. Edit. Showed my brother the post and he laughed so hard he started coughing, lol. Then said we should call him Dr. Danny and each other Blue and Red, so swap the nicknames he gave us around. Thoughts? Edit 2. As people were asking, he has no access to my mom's money or anything like that. She rents the house and it came pre-furnished and otherwise has no real assets. She doesn't make a lot of money anyway, so there's no pecuniary motive we could think of. Here are some relevant comments. Commenter. I wonder if he grew up without a dad. He's giving a weird 1950s energy to this whole thing that feels like he only knows about dads from seeing them on the telly. Original poster replies, oh no, his dad's still alive. Both his parents are. I've met them. They definitely feel odd about the whole situation, but go along with it for his sake. Could you compromise and call him Pa or something? The thing is, it became apparent, it's more than just a name to him. He explicitly wants to do father-son activities with me and my brother with him as the dad, despite the fact we're both older than him. Commenter. If it's so important to his personal identity to find a girl, have kids with her, and raise them as their dad, it seems like marrying a 58-year-old woman with adult children significantly older than himself is a pretty ineffective way to achieve those life goals. If it's so important to him, he should find someone his own age and make that happen the normal way. It's not your responsibility to make your mom's boy toy feel like a man. You're closer to being his much older brother than his son. Weird. Original poster replies, me and my siblings all think he has issues talking to girls his own age, and so it led to this. I also get you are supporting your mom, but maybe question her having a kid at 58. Like, does she plan to be around for graduation? Marriages? Grandkids? It sounds like your mom is having some empty nest issues and is illogically trying to start over. If she got pregnant today, she would be 77 years old when her kid graduated. Considering she hasn't even started trying yet, That means she will be in her 80s when the kid graduates. That isn't realistic. Also, I have a 5 and 7-year-old and am only 38 years old and already feel tired all the time. I can't imagine what a 58-year-old would feel like. Original poster replies, "Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't actually see this ever going ahead. Hence why I'm happy to say, yeah, of course I'll support you. Because I guess I just can't imagine, push comes to shove, her actually getting the treatment greenlit. I did raise the age stuff, and she just said, people live a lot longer these days." Commenter: I don't know what his endgame is here, if it's a mental health problem, or he's trying to create some legal precedent that he intends to exploit later, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to explain, defend, or justify this decision. Original poster replies, "The endgame? I genuinely think he wants to start a family, or at least pretend he's the dad of one. Ever since we met him, it's all he'd ever really go on about and how he needs to be a dad to become a man. Very early on, he asked me if I ever planned to have kids, and I said no, and he got quite taken aback, like a mixture of offense and confusion, and sort of seemed to imply I'm either gay, I am, but sesh, or trans because I don't want to be a man then." Commenter: Hope it works out in the long run, but I was laughing so hard by the end. Such a crazy situation. I think you should talk with your mom and maybe hang out with her fiancé, but as bros, not some weird dad situation. Original poster replies, "I have offered this. But every time me and my brother do, he definitely tries to act like the man of the group, or sets us up for more explicit father-son activities, or just talks about how desperate he is to be a father. A personal favorite was a time when he got his phone out and started reading some pearls of wisdom he'd obviously found online. His probable low self-esteem. Yeah, I want to be gentle because I do think he has that warped self-esteem and a lot of other issues. Definitely not all with it. I do know his parents, and they're totally normal, nice people who go along with this for his sake. He's mentioned internet friends and friends from a D&D group, but I've never met them. Me and my siblings have tried talking with his parents, but from the way they've come across, they really don't want to get involved any more than they have to, unfortunately. But thank you. Hopefully the conclusion of this will be gentle. Update: 4 days later. Original post and slightly amended the title for clarity. Anyway, so I told both my siblings and we agreed we'd collectively put our foot down with Danny at our next family dinner next week. Especially after an incident where Danny referred to my brother as sport and asked if he wanted to go see a baseball game with him. Admittedly, I was a bit spurred on by what you all said and got involved, pinging him back with, "Oh, no tickets for me, Daddy," and my brother responded with, "Daddy wants me all to himself. Hot." And Danny took a few minutes to respond before saying he was shocked, speechless, and disgusted. He then messaged me in private to say he was utterly appalled and that he'd never disrespect his own father the way you boys did. I kind of lost it at this point and said, "Right, that's because you're not my father, Danny. You're a 24-year-old man-child dating my mother. You have no right to my respect, especially not to the respect a father gets." I immediately said sorry, but then blocked his number and left the group chat. Apparently, he sent a similar thing to my brother, who responded with more daddy stuff, and Danny blocked him. Well, that aside, I don't think that family dinner is going ahead. After the original post blew up, it seems someone from his Lions Club found it and reported it to their chair or whatever, and Danny has either been expelled or resigned, or in the process of one of the two. He has removed nearly all mentions of the Lions from his social media, and no longer mentions being a member, with his last post on it being some cryptic goodbye post where he kind of drones on about what it means to be a man in the modern day and the duty of fatherhood bestowed on all men at birth. Really weird AF. My mom called me half in a panic, half in a rage after, about the stuff I'd been telling about him, before breaking down and saying we need to meet, which we did, and got my brother to go over too. I know he has temporarily moved back in with his parents in the next town over, but from my understanding they still want to go ahead with the wedding. But I think that's more so because they've already spent money on it. When she said she was determined to have more kids, plural, My brother did step up and asked if she really thought that was a good idea at her age, and I pointed out that assuming she had the baby next year and she lived to 80, they still wouldn't have finished college. She just stammered on about how people live longer these days before breaking down crying and admitting she's not ready to give up on mothering due to some deep-seated trauma and fears about the family breaking apart that I won't go into for her sake. When we reassured her that we weren't going anywhere, she calmed down and we had a very good, honest conversation where she's agreed to drop the IVF stuff on the grounds that it'd be too expensive and unlikely to get greenlit. But she's still adamant it's scientifically possible, and she should be allowed to do it from an ethical standpoint because she has to win that argument, and has agreed to look into fostering instead. Me and my brother highly doubt anything will ever come of that, so we're not that worried anymore. The very good news is she's also agreed to look into therapy, psychiatric help to deal with her trauma, and we've helped get her in touch with a nice lady in town to unpack all this in a more healthy way. So at least one person is getting the help they need. I have no idea what's happened with Danny or what's going to happen with him, but I did make it clear to my mom that he is not my dad. He's not even my stepdad. I'm not a kid. And he's never going to be either one outside of legal stupidity. She relented pretty quickly. I think she's finally broken out of her shell at least. And we've agreed that if things go ahead, that's going to be a huge red line though. I don't know if he'll want to be friends with me after all this, El Mayo. Anyway, thanks for the help on the original post, y'all. Bit of an update, as I can't respond to everybody, but I think the marriage is off. Danny has gone AWOL again and has had a huge argument with his family as they've demanded he call off the wedding and date people his own age. This apparently made him snap. Me and my mom have met his mom and older brother, who said Danny is very insecure around girls his own age and has never been able to talk to them, hence his preference. This very deeply upset my mom, and after some begging from all of us, she has agreed to push the wedding back, though she wants to keep dating him. I have no idea where Danny is, though his brother assumes he's couch surfing with his D&D friends, who have been sending me and my brother some not-so-nice messages, because clearly we're just jealous of the mild hunter. If any of you socially inept are reading this, I don't need to chase middle-aged folk because I can talk to boys my own age like a normal person. Peace.